guys, welcome back to another one. This one is going to be a little bit different once again. We are going to load a 10 pellet 30 cal number 1 buck in 24 gauge. Yeah, so my 24 gauge, it's an Iver Johnson Champion made between 1913 and 1948. So it's old, but it's still a great gun. The problem with it is it just has an improved cylinder fixed choke. It's not that great to pattern with past 30 yards, but at 25-30 yards, this 30 cal number 1 buck load, it has about a 20-inch pattern. It's not that bad. It patterns well enough to get the job done on a deer at 25-30 yards. Anything past that, I'll take something else. The main thing that we use the 24 gauge for, mine anyway, is shooting clays. It's a lot of fun, and it busts them pretty well. It turns out that the 24 gauge, being a straight wall shell, it actually fits wads that are meant for 20 gauge tapered shells, like a clay buster. This one right here, actually. It's a tapered 20 gauge wad. This one is a clay buster, 7/8 ounce to 1 ounce wad, and it fits 24 gauge like it was made for it. This hull specifically is a Federal branded Fiocchi. Yep, it is a Fiocchi hull that is just rebranded to Federal. Federal actually sells 24 and 32 gauge ammo. And it's not old, it's new production stuff. Again, it's just Fiocchi rebranded though. So in order to deprime and resize the 24 gauge hulls, same with 32, I have this little Skeeter's 16 gauge to 24 gauge chamber adapter. I got these before I had a 24 or a 32 gauge. I wanted to be able to shoot the shells and at least say, hey, I can shoot 24 and 32 gauge. But yeah, that was before I got actual shotguns in those gauges. And this thing actually has a tighter chamber than my 24 gauge shotgun does. So this is now my resizing die. And to do that, I take a 16 gauge ring because this is a 16 gauge dimension shell or chamber adapter. And I use it upside down. Rings on the bottom. And I just resize and deprime like normal here. Line it up right. And we are resized and deprimed. I take the resize ring, still upside down, put the shell in the rim, the cutout for the rim in the resize ring, bring it over here to my press, and what I do is use the bottom of the black part of the press, the plastic part, to push out the hull. We're almost out. There we go. A little bit tight, but if you look at the brass, I don't know if you can see it, but it is resized. It has the marks from being resized on it. Now we are ready to reprime, and it is really late at night. It's 2 in the morning here, and I don't want to wake the neighbors up or anybody else in my house by pounding on the shell to resize the primer pocket. So what I'm doing is just using a piece of masking tape right here, going around the primer, just like that, in order to make this fit in a Euro size primer pocket. This is a Shaddai, which are now American size, but after you get the tape around it, or use the primer pocket conditioner, American size primers will fit these Euro hulls. And you notice how tight that went in there. It actually clicked into place. It's a nice tight fit with that tape. So the thing with 24 and 32 gauges is there is no published load data for Buckshot or anything heavier loads, what I would consider normal for the gauges. See, 24 and 32 gauge factory loads are both very light for the gauge. They're both 410 loads, 32 being the half ounce, 2.5 inch shell 410, and the 24 being the 11/16 ounce 3 inch version of a 410 load. But again, those are very light for the gauges. You can take a 24 gauge up to 1 ounce, no problem whatsoever. And the 32 gauge, it likes that 5/8 ounce to 11/16 ounce, 5/8 and 3/4 ounce area. But I'm using 18 grains of blue dot here for a roughly 1 ounce load. It's more closer to 26 grams total payload anyway. It's going to weigh 0.93 on the scale, Okay, so we have our 18 grains, and that 0.93 on the scale I mentioned, that is with buffer and obviously the lead payload. So we have our, again, 18 grains of blue dot. Now we need to trim the shot cup off the wad. To do that, I'm just using a pocket knife. Really easy to do. So we have the pedals trimmed off the wad. Now I just need to open the hull mouth up a little bit. These were roll crimped, so need to open it up a little bit to be able to get the wad in. And again, these 20 gauge tapered claybuster wads fit 24 gauge like it was made for it. If you just seen that right there, went in easy. And we have no bulging anywhere of the plastic. It fits like it was made for it. We're going to use 1 sheet of my slim mylar from Ballistic Products. These are for small bore. You just roll it up and stick it right down inside your hull. You can't see it, I know, but it is in there. And now we are ready for 10 pellets of 30 cal number 1 buck. I forgot, you need to add a little bit of compression to the wad. Make sure it's down on your powder all the way, and then the 10 pellets. We have our 10 pellets in place. Now we need some buffer if you want to use buffer. It's not necessary, but again, my 24 gauge has an improved cylinder fixed choke, so it needs all the help it can get. I'm using Ballistic Products mix number 47 here. Split a little bit, that's okay. The top row of pellets is about halfway covered, and that's all you really need. I'm using 1 slice of a 24 gauge nitro card as an overshot card, and we are ready to roll crimp this. And I'm using the Ballistic Products 24 gauge roll crimp tool. Kinda gonna be awkward to do it up here, but I'll give it a shot, why not? I know you guys probably want to see this. A little bit more. It's hard to hold on to, but we almost have it. I'm just gonna do it here. And here's the end result, guys. 10 pellet, 30 cal, number 1 buck in 24 gauge. Pretty solid load. I wish I had a full choke. I imagine out of a full choke, this load would do probably pretty good at 40 yards. I can only dream though. We do actually have a pretty uniform, decent looking crimp on it. It ain't perfect, but it ain't gotta be. It's pretty even across the top. It's not slanted. We got no bulging of the pellets anywhere. It's a pretty good looking show right there. 30 cal number 1 is the biggest size you can neatly stack in 24 gauge. You can get 31 cal in here, but it does dimple the hull out just a little bit, which isn't a huge deal because most 24s are either single shots or doubles. There is one semi-auto I know of out there, and it was a conversion from a Remington 1100 20 gauge. The owner of it actually had a gunsmith turn it into a 24 gauge. Why, I don't know, but I wish I had one. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to load something oddball for you. Haven't done it in a while. And 24 gauge is something that I think is really cool, along with 32 gauge. It's just a neat little cartridge. But personally, I just like the oddball stuff. I prefer 10 over 12. I prefer 16 over 20. Sometimes I make 16 take the purpose of a 12 gauge. I load them up heavy. I like heavy loads. We're still looking for an 8 gauge. Every time that one comes up, we just can't afford it, but fingers crossed we can get one soon. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below, and we'll get back to you. If you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month. You guys get early access to content. A link to that will be in the description below, along with a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts. But other than that, you guys take it easy. We'll see you in the next one.